Very welcome, everyone. We're very glad to have you at the launch event for the CGIAR User Research Toolkit. Today's agenda is going to include a quick welcome and then a tour through the UX Tools for Ag website, where we hope to share interesting insights for you on how can you make best use of the tool and how to integrate it in your workflows. And we're very proud to feature afterwards Lina Yassin with insights on the role of user research for product development, and Steve Cole with comments on gender inclusivity and user research. And we're going to have a wrap up and closing words by Anna Müller. We want to start with getting to know you a bit. We prepared a quick Mentimeter. I'm sure lots of you know this tool already. You can either take out your phone and scan the QR code that you can see on the left bottom side of the slide, or I hope either Aline or Sam can exactly post the link to Mentimeter in the chat. So you can either click on the link in the chat, or you scan the QR code that you can hopefully see here on my slides. We have just 2 questions for you to get to know our audience. I see people joining, great. Just give you 1 or 2 more minutes. You can either click on the link in the chat or take out your smartphone, open your camera and scan the QR code you can see on my slides. All right, so our first question for you is, did you use the site already? Have you been to UX Tools for Ag, the User Research Toolkit? Oh, that's perfect. A lot of new people. We're very glad to be able to show it to you then and not bore you with a presentation of the interesting features we prepared. 15 people are new to the site. That's actually perfect. Then our next question is more about your imagination and what you've heard about the toolkit so far. My second question would be, what did you use UX Tools for Ag for in case you've been there? And if you haven't been there, what would you like to do on the User Research Toolkit? There should be a screen for you with just a few words that you can pick on. Now, somebody didn't manage to write to the end. Okay, get orientations, learn, tools for personas, checklist for plan, feedback, analysis, learn new tool, user feedback. Wow, that's moving quite a bit. Method guidelines, practical tool, inspiration for methods. And people that still haven't an idea what they can do there. Well, I hope you get more ideas during our presentation today. Thank you so much. We're going to come back with more questions for you. I think it's super interesting to know who's with us. I'll close the Mentimeter for now, and I'll hand over to Anna Müller to present a bit the idea behind the toolkit as well as the team.
Thank you, Charlotte. Yeah, welcome everybody to this event. Great to see such an engaged audience already. Happy to open this event with a few remarks. So user research is really a nice way to design more inclusive and user-centered innovations, something we're all requested increasingly to do, especially in our CGIAR initiatives. So what we often notice that as researchers, our colleagues here in the CGIAR, we have really busy schedules, we have different tasks and roles, and it's not so easy and straightforward to learn new methods or even implement them in our research or our routines. So this is the background where we were sitting together as a team and thought, okay, how can we actually bring our colleagues to engage a bit more with user research? How can we make how can we transmit this knowledge so it's easily kind of learned and implemented? And that's, how this journey of UX tools for ag started. And I'm really happy to show the results now. So it's been a truly user-oriented process. UX tools for ag presents like a collection of tested tools that have been curated by experts. There are many different tools out there that you might know for human-centered design and user research. So what we add in value is that we took the tools, we understood our research colleagues and customized it and tailored it to this context, so to the agricultural research context. So I think the site is a really great and easy way to get to know about user research and start understanding how you can integrate it into your research and your innovation products. To finally reach more user-centered and also inclusive innovations with hopefully the impact that we aim to have. So let me briefly introduce the team behind UX Tools for Ag. So there's Charlotte, who already introduced herself a bit. She has been the lead behind the design of the concept and the content. We have Aline, who has been our user experience design expert. So she really made sure this site, UX Tools for Ag, has a really pleasant, attractive user experience. We have Alejandro, he was actually based in Cali. I don't know whether he's already connected here, who's been responsible for the web design and the technical implementation. And that's myself, Anna Müller. I'm a team lead for inclusive design and user research at the Alliance, and I've kind of coordinate the work for this UX Tools for Ag kit between, also together with the Digital Innovation Initiative and Excellence in Agronomy, who also have very generously supported this effort. I hope you enjoy this event, and I hand over back to Charlotte.
Thanks, Anna. Thanks for the kind introduction. I also want to mention that it wasn't just us, but there was a lot of feedback and support we received from a lot of you in the audience. So we did user testing, content testing. We had people mark the content they find most interesting. There was a lot of interaction with you, and we're very grateful for all the contributions. And obviously we had communication support who's here with us today. And this meant to say also thank you for everyone that was involved beyond just the team. Before we give you a quick tour through the tool, we just wanted to tell you what our idea was when we started our research on how such a toolkit could support researchers in the CGIAR, but also beyond. So we found that there are basically 3 profiles on how people interact and what needs they have towards learning about user research. And the first profile we found is what we call the planner, and we gave it this icon, and you can find it throughout the page, guiding you if you feel you are a planner. A planner is a person that leads a research or innovation program and writes proposals, hires staff, and mainly is involved in planning user research. And for this persona, we try to find overviews, easily accessible, fast information, so that they know how to budget also for user research. And then we found there's another profile of people that are more involved in really implementing user research. So they have questions of, how do I do this? What are the steps? What are do's and don'ts? And we bring you exactly this information in another flow that we want to show you later on the page. And then we found there's a third profile of people actually getting in a car and driving to villages to do research. And for these, we would love to support to provide support in a, let's say, version 2.0 with printable materials, things you can bring to workshops and hang on a wall if you do research in rural areas. Exactly, so that's our setup. And me and Aline are going to show you 2 flows on what's possible on UX Tools for Ag, obviously just giving you a brief cutout of the site. So let's say I am a CG researcher, a senior researcher, and I'm writing a proposal for an agricultural advisory project that, let's say, involves a farmer-facing tool. I have probably heard about user research and UX, user experience, but I'm not sure how to integrate that in my proposal. I want my tool to have outreach and scale, and of course support the overall impact of my project. What I need is justification for budgets and human resources related to user research that I can put in my project proposal. So on UX Tools for Ag, this is where I would start. This is the method overview page where you can find all the methods that we cover in the toolkit. This overview is also filterable. You can filter it depending on whether you want to explore a topic, let's say something that's new to you, or you're at the stage where you rather want to evaluate an existing tool. And we try to make it easy for you in giving you exactly the methods that are closest to your case. If you're completely new to user research, we also offer here down here an overview on what are, from our perspective, the phases that a research project should go through. So we tell you what's planning, what you should be aware of when you plan a project, how to go about exploratory research, what's the point once you have a problem statement and you need to dive deeper into it, how to go about that, and what are a bit the cornerstones of evaluative research. Going back up and saying we're in the planning stage. As a planner, I would go to the module User Research Plan. And this, what you can see now, is the structure of all our method modules on the page. They all start with this overview that is for you, the planner. And as a planner, I'm interested in the W's, right? I want to know what user research plan is about, why I should do one, whom I need to involve, and when I should write this. So we're giving you this information right away here at the start. And also in terms of writing proposals and planning for user research, we try to give you as much as possible an estimation of what is the time you should count for, what are the materials you're going to need, whom you should involve, and also whether this is something that is a must-have or a nice-to-have. We have both kind of methods on UX Tools for Ag. Then we offer you a quick overview on what are the pros and cons of this, what might be challenges with this method and why it's useful. You can dive into other people's experiences and read why they found it helpful to implement this method. And if you're a planner and your time is limited, we offer you this one online resource that you should read. We've selected for each method. If you only have time for one page, this is the one you should read from our point of view. If this wasn't what you were looking for, we offer you alternatives for every phase, giving you the opportunity to maybe jump and say, maybe this isn't what I need to do first, and we show you the other modules available here. But let's say this is what you need to do. You do need to write a user research plan. Then the site brings you to the guidelines part, which is all about implementation. And on the user research plan module, we show you, for example, what a user research plan can look like. It can be a whiteboard plan. You can see an example here. And we give you pros and cons of this format. But we also show you what a Word document user research plan could look like and what would be an interesting structure for it. But let's say I've written my research plan now, and I'm going to hand over to my junior researcher, Aline, to check out the method that's also really researched for a lot in the CG, the famous user persona. And I hand over to Aline and say, please help me create one. Over to you, Aline.
All right. Then let me check the link that Charlotte has shared with me. When I click on the link, I land on the method overview page with a short summary about user personas, when to use them, when they're useful. But what I need to learn more about is how I can create personas. So I go to the guidelines page. On the guidelines page, the first section that I see is an overview of the phases for building a user persona. And that tells me which stages I need to go through when I'm creating a persona for our project. So the first one, research phase, this is when I conduct user interviews to get the data that will inform my personas. Next comes the analysis of the answers and data that I've collected. Then I get to the design phase, and there are some templates which I can check out, which are listed down here, which will be really helpful. But there was a last phase that I haven't reviewed. So I'm going to go back up here and see that the last phase is the maintenance phase, which is all about deploying the created personas for further innovation analysis. All right, so now that I know that I'm aware of the different steps, I see in the navigation bar that there's more around persona types. So let's find out which personas are suited for our project. I didn't know there was more than one. There are three. There is the classic user persona, a profile of an ideal user based on user interview and observation results. A statistical persona, which is a more complex and statistically refined profile. And then a proto-persona, which is a quick ad hoc collection of existing assumptions. So let's find out what the statistical persona is about. This one is built from what I can read here on the qualitative user personas, and then followed by surveys to test these findings, and then with a larger sample, and then do statistical analysis. That seems like a scientific approach, but it also seems to be highly resource intensive. But let me check first the example that I can see here. I like to see the mix of text and then also the usage of icons. And then maybe when I go further down here, I can see in the potential challenges that it validates what I had suspected. It's costly, time consuming, and there is a danger of overkill. So although it might be representative, this might be too much for the time being. So let me go back and check the classic user persona. More about that one. Whoops. The classic user persona only requires a small to medium sample size, which seems to be a lot more realizable. And there are a lot of types of profiles showcased here. All of them highlight different needs and goals, challenges and pain points. If I compare it to the previous example, these transmit in more detail how a person would feel or think about a certain problem. It's backed up by quotes. So this really can help us to empathize with the users that we are building these personas for. I can see why there might be pushback, as it might not be too scientific, but for now, going with a classic persona should be a good starting point. To create these personas, I would need to start with interviews and field observation. I'm happy to see, if I click on them, that these are also covered by the UX Tools for Ag toolkit, so I can review that in a second step. What are other best practices that I should need, or that I could consider? So what I can find in best practices are do's and don'ts, which are good reminders of what I should pay attention to, just like biases, or that I focus on the present and the challenge at hand. What about the don'ts? Don't recycle. And what I'm learning here is that personas are much more about intrinsic motivations and goals rather than demographics. So I will keep that in mind when I prepare my interview questions. Then lastly, what I can find here are the potential bias to be aware of, which is a good reminder. And if I look at the bias overview section, it tells me the countermeasures that I can use to counteract against those biases. So these will be really helpful to review once we do the conduct interviews and do the analysis. Lastly, at the bottom, there are selected reading recommendations where I can gain more information. But for now, I would say I have a much clearer idea of what a user persona entails. I learned in under 5 minutes which types might be suited for our project and what I need to do to create personas. So I can go back to you, Charlotte, now, and we can align on our approach.
Thank you, Aline. It might take one or the other more than these 5 minutes to learn about the user personas, as we could see. But we also wanted to make it quick since you have lots of time to explore the tool afterwards. We have time to take 1 or 2 questions from you. I'm going to take up the one that's already here in the Q&A by Berit Moore, who asked the suggested time to do this. Is this when you're already experienced in doing the step, or would you say it becomes faster with practice? And I see Anna is currently typing an answer. But I would also just
go ahead. I finished typing.
Okay. So UX Tools actually wants to meet you where you are. So if you just want to get an overview on what are user research methods, then you can really browse and get inspired. And if you're at the point in your work where you feel I have the task, or I want to do better interviews, or I have to design a user journey, then there's all the material to get you started on doing it well and according to best practice. That will be my answer. Do we have other questions from the audience? I think you can raise your hand. There are so many windows here. I'm not sure but Sam's gonna alert me if someone has his hand up, or her. Probably. More questions regarding the tool. All right. So this little intervention was really just to show you what is potentially possible. There are much more methods on the site, and we invite you to check them out, get in contact with us, and give us feedback on them. And obviously, you're going to need some time to read it. Then, if there are no more questions, I'm very glad to be presenting Lina Yassin. She is Product Director for Digital and Data Global Group of the CGIAR. I hope you can see my screen. Yes. Lina started her career in theater and then moved to a PhD in neuroscience, researching on neuroplasticity. She's an expert in agile coaching, change management, and organizational design, and has previously bootstrapped startups. For example, her startup New, a B2B learning and development software as a service enterprise targeting managers. And she's very passionate about people growth, metrics and data, teaching, and women empowerment. Very welcome, Lina. And we're very glad to have you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Charlotte. I do hope that you're all seeing my screen now.
Yes, I do.
Yes, you do. So yeah, it was really a pleasure when Charlotte and Anna contacted me to actually just present something from the digital and data perspective to the user research. That's why actually I brought a video to illustrate. It's not really related to CG or to agricultural research, but just to really understand what is product development. It's a video without sound, but I'll give you a bit to see it. Let me know if it's rolling.
It's still loading. And now rolling.
Okay. Did you guys have seen the video? Yeah, I can see that
Yes.
some nodding. Maybe you can write in the chat, like what struck you in the video, and how was the message, and why was the message or the delivery effective, if it was. Give you a couple of just minutes to write. What is the aha? Like, what did you enjoy in the video, or what you didn't enjoy? And why do you think the message was effective? And maybe I'm going to ask someone to sort of like navigate through the chat. help see if like, oh, I can do it the same here. Okay.
I can also help you.
Yeah, please do, Charlotte.
I found it super interesting how they showed me exactly where I can interact with the tool.
Yeah. Yeah. It was very like the immediate, like it's very easy to use, right? Don't have to be confused. Okay.
People say it was fun. It was fun to use the tool.
Right. It was fun to use it, right? You sort of like feel already the satisfaction coming out of it, right? It was easy. It's intuitive. Yeah. That was, should be moving that way. Yeah. So my job actually as a digital and data product director is exactly to help organizations build such kind of a digital product. Yeah. That campaign is also a digital product. Yeah. Has to be human-centric, you know, building products for people to use and understand, like, what are they afraid? Because usually if you'd ask them to come and donate money, they would like, no, I don't want to do it. Has to be outcome oriented, you know, build something fast, deliver fast, see the results live. You see, like, they did this and I could really see I'm freeing somebody or somebody has food. It's really a trust and ownership. You know, you empower people to walk, take action, rather somebody telling them, can you please donate? So it is really like pull, not push. Yeah, it's a self-organizing organization, self-organizing teams. Then finally, this empowerment, having really low threshold. You know, I don't need much, just like €1 might be what I needed from you. Creating cross-functional teams that are less dependencies between them, and they actually own and have autonomy in leading stuff. That's what we or organizations need in order to roll digital products. Now, that's everything under what we call agile. Yeah, so agile product development has pillars, principles, methods, and technologies. So in terms of like the pillars, we have to create processes that are transparent. We have to go into inspecting, like building things and inspecting how does it go, and also into adapting, like seeing, oh, this worked, this didn't work. How can we actually leverage the learnings next? Why do I sometimes move backwards and sometimes? Yeah. In terms of the principles, and that's what's really joint, that's what we want research to be. That's where the user research also goes, is that we have to understand what does our customer need? How do we embrace change? How do you create teams, you know, in the initiatives, researchers with different profiles that can really self-organize in order to create the value? And how do we do development in an iterative and incremental way with focus on continuous improvement, knowing what worked and what didn't? So when we talk about agile product development, there's a lot of tools out there. You know, some people use Scrum, which is one framework. Other people use Kanban. Others use Lean. Others use like a scaling, which is safe. These are all just methodologies. But what they all have in their essence is that they have the technologies, the techniques that they're using. So user stories and having backlogs. So what Alina presented, for example, about the personas, this is one, but like, how do we roll now the planning of the work in order to really decide what needs to be done first, next, in different horizons? We need to be discussing prioritization. You know, there's a couple of frameworks for prioritization. There's the MOSCO, which is must have, should have, could have, won't, or will. There's the RICE, which is like, what's the reach, what's the impact, what's the capacity, what's the effort, or confidence, sorry. There are prioritizations that are really based on, like, you know, who's my target audience and how confident I am to deliver it. And then there's like matrices like impact versus effort. How much will it impact? How many people will it impact versus how feasible can I really build it? Then there are frameworks that are like OKRs. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this huge Google frameworks, objectives and key results. How do we set objectives and we break them into measurable key results that we can do in order to implement the plan, and also set goals that are really smart. And then also governance and roles and responsibilities. Even when we have our backlog of like, what are we rolling? How are we rolling it? What are the tasks? We have to say who's doing which type of work. What are the roles and what are responsibilities? And how do you make sure that the team is very transparent about the different roles so that they can help one another? And how do we build something really quick and prototype it first so that we don't waste a lot of resources into building something which will take years? And that is what we call like minimum viable product, like build a product that is really viable to the users, or even sketch it to the users so that the users can interact with it. Finally, those are all the principles and the pillars, but actually we should always really fall in love with the problem, not the solution. Yeah, we should not be busy mopping the floor rather than understanding actually that there's a faucet that needs to be turned off. So we should always be very, very clear about what are the problems that we want to solve for our users. How do you prioritize them? How do we ask the right segment to prioritize, rather than just like, okay, let me do a quick fix and then just mop the floor. Just wanted to leave you with one last thing, which is like, what's the difference between a digital project and a digital product? So a project, you have guys been using it, I think, since we're born. Like it's a fixed, a project is a temporary endeavor that is undertaken to create a specific product, service, or result. Scope is fixed, time is fixed, budget is fixed. That's a project. And sadly, at CG, we've been just rolling projects and projects and projects, but we know it's fixed and fixed and fixed, right? Rather than actually switching into a digital product mentality. Now, a product, as we said, like something that you can market or sell, but that facilitates an end goal through the use of data. We're really offering something, a journey end to end, and we're using the data in order to really provide the service. So for example, in terms of a project, because it's fixed scope, budget, and time, we could say rolling a research initiative is a project. Organizing a wedding, building a house, it's a project. But what happens when the funding finishes? Most likely we have to sort of like maintain such a project, or it dies. Rather than actually a product that it's actually a living artifact. It's something that we can add features, we can reduce features, we can pivot. It could be really like a dashboard. It could be a route planning. It could be a Spotify song. It could be a farmer's app that we can actually continue asking ourselves, what is the user and how can we satisfy their needs on the go and build for them rather than just for the businesses. I think I'm going to stop at that point. I had another slide, but I think it's too complex for the sake of time. Maybe I'll stop here and we can take a couple of questions.
Yes, thanks a lot, Lina.
Did I manage in a couple of times?
You did just perfectly. So the floor is open for questions. Do you have any questions for Lina regarding the presentation, user research, and the role for product design? While we wait for people to make up their mind, I wanted to ask you, Lina, after having seen a lot of product development yourself and implemented it yourself, would there be one advice you would give to people starting with user research on how to do it well? Was there one learning you would share for people that start with all these methodologies?
Absolutely. And I think that we all do this mistake, although we know what the guidelines are, is that we do not talk enough to our users. We do not validate the hypothesis. And we're sometimes only happy if we talk to 5 users. One of them said that, yeah, this is what I want. And we said like, okay, let's just do it, rather than actually understanding why did the 4 others did not really support the hypothesis that I have. So sometimes we fall in love with the solution rather than actually understand the problem. So do not run into being happy about validating before actually having the right segments and understanding the user's need, and then building for the users iteratively. And I think that that's the second one, which is sometimes we sort of like, oh, I got you. I'm going to come back and show you after some time. No, come back and show me after short time, because keep me in the loop as a user in order for me to understand that you really understood what I want, and show me like something small, a prototype, so that I can be sure that I can use it, rather than keep me in the dark for so long time and then I don't need it anymore. Yeah.
That's really also a question that we
muted?
Ourselves experience, right? That you can't hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, that we ourselves experience that there is, I think, in the CG still not necessary budget to actually do iterations. There's a lot of, I think, a lot of enthusiasm for it, but that it actually needs time and resources is something that I think we just need to promote more. And there is a question by Mariette McCampbell asking, in one of your slides, it said satisfy customers in a CGIAR context. Who do you see as a customer? And another question, digital projects often produce digital products, but the maintenance after the project is difficult. What to do about that?
I really love both questions. So first of all, customer, client, end user, these are really different segments in the personas that we're building, right? So we have to understand for this product, who are the sponsor, who are the stakeholder, who are the user, who are the customer, depending on the different segment, yeah? But if you're building for the farmers, actually the end users are the farmers. These are the people that you have to satisfy. You know, and sometimes you're building actually an app for funders or a dashboard for funders. These are the end users for that thing. So you have to determine, before you rush to build stuff, find the segments and find the stakeholder mapping. And I think that there is already a tool for it, and understand who are your end users, who are your customers, who are your stakeholders, and differentiate about it. I do hope I understand, I answered that. The other questions about, you know, true, we start with projects, the artifact of them is a digital product, but who's going to maintain it afterwards? You have to understand, if we do it successfully, then we can, in the anticipation of saying, no, this project does not end by the end of the project. We are building products. That's why there's a Horizon 2, Horizon 3, Horizon 4, and then funders would be interested to continue funding it, but not in a project, but actually in a product mentality, because they feel like the user still needs it. Yeah. So digital product can be actually reassessed and reused and re-asked for more money in order to continue building it, digital product. But projects then are actually by definition very much scope, time, and budget limited. That's why the attempt here, the vision is to ask funding based on products rather than projects.
Thanks, Lina. There's another question in the chat. I think that's more towards the presentation of the toolkit, asking whether we have content also targeting senior UX people, since everything we presented so far does seem to focus people that are new to UX or non-UX researchers. And what I found is that probably the ag context is a very new context for people that come from UX, which is traditionally not done a lot in agriculture. So that might be something that's interesting. If you come from a UX background, we have a lot of examples on how this can be done with the target group that's basically offline or only has a mobile phone. And you can't do a lot of, let's say, remote online research with them. What are easy ways to translate this to research in rural Tanzania? Or yeah, that will be my answer to that. And then we have more and more questions coming in regarding gender perspectives, which I think is the perfect bridge to our next presenter. Thanks a lot, Lina, so far. I would like to introduce Steve Cole, a senior scientist and gender research coordinator for the International Institute of Tropical Agriculture. Steve holds a PhD in biological anthropology from the University of Arizona, a master's degree in agriculture and resource economics, and a bachelor degree in health and nutrition. And he has been employing both quantitative and qualitative methods to understand the social and gender dynamics in agriculture context, specifically in low-income countries. And we invited Steve especially for his extensive experience in designing and piloting transformative approaches to overcome gender inequalities and agriculture development outcomes. We're very glad to have you here, Steve, and the floor is yours.
All right. Thank you very much. Yeah, so I'll be brief, but yeah, I just wanted to kind of give my kind of understanding of the overall toolkit, and then I'll speak. I'll provide a bit of a reflection on how I think, especially gender researchers within or outside the CGIAR could use the toolkit. So yeah, the toolkit comprises user research methods and methodologies so that innovation researchers and partners can create inclusive products that understand and enable people of all backgrounds and abilities. So a really big congratulations on developing this toolkit. And I think also per the comment that was just made, especially for people who maybe are new to user research, they can come to this space and learn a lot about these different tools and methodologies to integrate into their work. And then my brief reflection is on how the toolkit could be used or consulted by gender researchers to develop gender and socially inclusive products. And I'd first start off by saying that maybe in my opinion, not all gender researchers use user research methods and methodologies across the different phases of the research. So in planning, exploring, explaining, and evaluating. And gender researchers, by further integrating gender and intersectional approaches, can truly benefit from these methods and methodologies when carrying out more action oriented research. I think also a lot of the principles that inform user research and the tools user researchers use are also used or embodied by feminist researchers who endeavor to address head-on the power relations involved, many of the biases that are involved when we do research with people, in our case, in agrarian context in low-income countries. And this is really the aspect that I probably love the most about this toolkit, is that it flags these biases inherent in any research process, right? And then asks those leading the work to acknowledge them and make them explicit, and then find ways to minimize their impact. And a core principle of feminist research is being reflexive, right? Which then encourages the researcher to be honest with themselves about their motivations for participating in a research project or product development, as well as making explicit their positionality when engaging in research. So in the user research toolkit, you can find all these different types of these biases, which kind of were briefly showed in the introduction, and that we tend to bring to the research process, and ways to minimize and or counter their effects. And really, if we can all, as researchers, assess our level of biases before, during, and after a research project or study, I suspect we'd all increase the quality of our research, but also the overall effectiveness of the research with people. And then just a real brief comment on a next step. I think a next step with this toolkit is maybe working with gender and feminist researchers to integrate more explicitly gender transformative and intersectional approaches in the toolkit. So I'll stop there for now. Thanks.
Thanks a lot, Steve. We're again opening for your questions. There are quite a lot of questions about how to include gender perspective in sensitive environments. Is there a specific advice you could give to our audience? I mean, it's probably a huge topic and lots to be said about it. Or is there one example where you think this has worked out well that you could share?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the research, and I've talked a lot with Anna about this, but a lot of the research that I've done in the past that uses user research methods and methodologies around participatory action research, and working with prototypes, and going into a community, and from day one, treating all kind of research project participants as co-developers, co-designers, co-researchers, trying to understand different perspectives of women and men, of younger people, of younger women and men, and embedding those in the process of product development, trying to understand who's missing from a particular space when developing a different product, or carrying out a specific research, to ensure that again, that the process being undertaken is inclusive, but also the products that get developed are can be considering different perspectives and needs, etc. And then working all the way through that validation or piloting phase, bringing on different partners, different stakeholders who are part of that process, maybe in promoting the different product through extension, service delivery, etc. So I think this toolkit would enable those who have that perspective to be able to engage with the different tools and methodologies to ensure that you're including these different perspectives, gender and social perspectives in the product design or in the research.
Yeah, thank you. I thought that I've been having a lot while building this toolkit, and also seeing how much it overlaps, how much user research overlaps with a lot of approaches that are being taken, or at least are aimed for in the CGIAR, is I think that we just need to work together much more, so that people don't feel they have like a whole stack of gender inclusive methodologies and a stack of product development methods and the stack of user research, but to show more where do these align and where do they go, specific pathways, because obviously they're not completely identical, but I think there's a lot to be done in order to merge these more and help people take a decision on what's the best tool for them. Lina, I hope you can see that there's feedback coming in the chat.
I'll check it. Do you want to select some and tell me?
Zoe is writing that you're really singing the same song that she sings on every project and product she collaborates and wants to connect. I hope you can see that in the chat. Yes. And then Anna is posting that, I don't know if she's pasting it from the Q&A, that someone wants to know about experiences we had with smallholder farmers and how the tools were useful there.
Maybe Charlotte, I want to sort of like take the second question, although it's not addressed to me, but we were discussing it in the prep talk to this, is that it's not about only creating a tool and having people use the tool. It's actually creating the community of practice that is going to share about how are we using the tool, what did we like in the tool, what is missing, what worked well, and showcasing some success stories of like, we used the tool in X and Y and Z, that's why we were able to do. So it's all about actually sort of showcasing how is the tool enabling us to be more collaborative, informative, and work better together. So I just wanted to sort of like say that the follow-up about this talk is even more needed than just the launch itself. But I wanted to just connect with Zoe, and I was like, I don't know what song you were like. What was the main challenges in keeping that song? You know, why an organization like CG is not yet in the product space and still in the project space. I mean, I don't think that we have much time to discuss it, but I will be very curious to sort of like see how do we move away from projects that are time blocked into products that are long-lived and actually with the users in focus. Me as a neuroscientist in my previous life, it's about just like how many papers did we publish, but actually how much are we able to translate those papers into insights so that people can actually benefit from them. And now working in CG, how can we not sort of like create papers that only some people are using and utilizing, but actually create end results for the end users, meaning the farmers in this case, or for even like we have products that have to do with helping banks support farmers in their economics and so on. So like how can we showcase again that the products that we're building are more sustainable and are long-lived?
Yeah, thank you. I just maybe want to add to how can we sustain our products? I think one question that user research can really help us, because someone asked for a concrete example, is also how can we target our products so that they address an actual existing need? And I think there are many stories to be told about products that were designed once on a desk or many years ago, and where actually qualitative methods like interviews, field observation can help you to maybe re-steer your focus. I helped a project in Ethiopia that wanted to deliver site-specific fertilizer recommendations to understand through interviews or qualitative methods that we also teach you about on UX Tools for Ag, to understand what is the farmer's a range of action regarding fertilizers. Can they actually buy more or buy less? Is there more or less available for those farmers? And in diving into this person's situation regarding the topic, I think that can make a real difference in targeting products like advisory tools, for example, to a really existing need. There's a long discussion to be had about this, and we're just a bit short of time. I want to give you just a quick wrap up on why we think user research is needed so much. And forgive me if it's a bit also a funny slide. So we know that in designing products, mistakes can happen. You oversee something that was obvious to someone else. And sometimes you just need someone from the outside to point you to it. And the internet is full of UX design fails. This is just one that I found quite funny. I'm sure it was meant to show the trajectory of the tiger, but you can't help but worry about what happened to the lady. Another example that I found really funny is also this. Maybe a quick interview with the supermarket holder or customers would have shown you that the similarities of these two products are quite dangerous, although their design in itself might be perfectly fine. And the last example that I find hilarious is this one. Maybe if you have observed someone typing his phone number in with a drop-down menu and having sit by someone taking 3 or 4 minutes to do this, would have helped these people to design a better web page. And obviously these are just a few funny examples, but they stand. I'm sure you can all think of a product that you helped develop, and once it was out there in the live, you thought, I should have thought about this. So UX Tools for Ag isn't a fix-it-all tool, obviously, but we offer you reliable methods explained for you step by step. We give you templates and examples. It's a free learning resource that we curated for you with online, the best of what's online. And it will save you time with quick overviews and learning offers. And before we hand over for Anna to a quick wrap up, I wanted to go back to Mentimeter and ask you, what is it that you will do next after having been maybe Sam or Aline can post the link again in the chat to Mentimeter. After having met this tool and having listened to our two experts, how will you share your learnings and integrate UX tools for ag in your work? Mentimeter link is in the chat. If you have it still open on your phone, you can just go back to it as well. Share challenges and create a community of practice. Check out the tools that are there. I hope everyone could join again. Get the recording and use them to support the interagency team communication. Great idea. Talk about the toolkit in your network. Integrate it in your research plan. Learn and try to apply it. Ensure that resource and time are planned for and when the next project plan is written. I think that's a great one. Check what I can use this season to get an evaluation of a tool in progress. I'll recommend the filter function. You'll have, I think, 4 or 5 evaluation methods that we recommend. Explore polls and surveys. Not sure about this one though.
Should I start wrapping up, Charlotte? We're almost to the hour while the questions come in. Or
sure. I just wanted to show 1 minute.
Yeah, sure.
I just wanted to show you some ideas that we had. You could mark it in your bookmarks. You could take 10 minutes for a deep dive in one method that interests you. You could showcase your preferred method in the next team meeting, introduce the tool in an email to your team, and also share it with your implementation partners. It's not a CGIAR only tool, obviously. And with this, I'll hand over to Anna for some wrap up. Yes.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Charlotte. Yeah, thank you, first of all, Charlotte and Aline, for organizing this really engaging event. I think this was really interesting, and we had some like nice mix of people coming in here, where we also see where this is coming from, right? I mean, we're like traditional, so to say, researchers, and we're more and more working into innovation research. But we're also having Lina here from the product development side. And I also saw in the chat participants, like research colleagues, but also colleagues working on UX or product development. So I think it's also nice to see that we are having here a linkage between 2 areas that maybe traditionally have not been so much connected, but especially through the digital transformation we see, okay, there are many links to build products together that have impact at scale with our users. Yes, so I hope everybody had a great time and could learn some new insights and take home a few key messages from the session. Yeah, I think there are definitely a few next steps coming out of here, and I don't want to go into detail, but I think I also resonate with Lina. I mean, it's really UX tools for ag is like a start, and I mean we're increasingly people interested in people coming together to learn how we can do user research, human-centered design, product development, product design in the CG, and I hope this will grow. We will maybe have similar events soon and keep talking and exchanging experience. So thank you everybody for making the time.
Thanks a lot. Big thank you also from my side. Thanks to our panelists and to everyone that took the time to be here today. Reach out if you're interested in learning more about the tool. And have a great day.